So what is Power BI and how can it help you build a killer fantasy football team? This is part of a series of content that we're going to create looking at how Power BI can help anyone build a really, really good fantasy football team. Now our story focuses on Berry Wand. Right? One day, Berry was busy working away using, she was working on reporting services using Business Intelligence Development Studio. It's about 2007, mid-July perhaps, right? It's raining outside, it's not hot like it has been over the last few days, and she's connecting to a SQL server that's got an Oracle link server, and it's got another whole bunch of linked connections, things to like Excel and stuff, and it's pulling all this data into a star schema that is being stored on a SQL server, so her reporting services environment can connect to one data source and then retrieve all the data she needs in her reports. Now, Berry works for a police force in the UK as a DBA. Right? The report she was working on is showing crime data for a major city centre that her police force was responsible for. She finished up writing an expression in her report and then saves and deploys her report to her reporting server, which of course is on premises. In 2007, everything was on premises. She just needs to pop into the data centre now to change the backup tape in the tape library, and her task list for the morning is complete. Now, back in the early millennium, Berry was wearing many hats. Right, she had lots of skills in things like disaster recovery and performance and security, but more and more in business intelligence and data analytics, and that was becoming very important to her police force. Now, she loved her job and she enjoyed the technology that she worked with, and Berry loves data. She sees the value it can bring to her organisation, and her organisation is starting to see the value and the benefits it can bring too. So Berry slopes off, changes the tape in the server room, shivers a little bit because of the air conditioning in the server room, and she returns to her desk. She looks up at the analog clock on the wall. It's busily ticking away, and she decides it's time for lunch. So she takes a walk to Tesco across the street, grabs a bite to eat. When she comes back, having enjoyed her egg and cress sandwich and her packet of cheese and onion crisps, she has an email in her inbox. It's from a former colleague, and she's been invited to join their fantasy football league. Berry loves football, and she thought, oh, this could be fun, so she signs up. Now, we fast forward 8 years. It's now July 2015. Right, Berry's FPL career hasn't been that great. Right, she's received the usual email from her former colleague asking her to rejoin the league she's been involved with. She sighs and she's like, oh, another season of misery and false hope. She'd give up, that hurt her more than performing poorly in the league. And she mumbles to herself, winners never quit and quitters never win. She signed up for the league and then auto picks her side, and we know that's a recipe for disaster. She then moves on to her next email, which is an email from Microsoft talking about the latest and greatest new cloud offering, Power BI, and inviting Berry to a webinar to explain all about Power BI. But she shuffles past that email. She ignores the invite. Oh, we're not allowed to use the cloud yet, sighed Berry. And then she started to look at alert emails about failed transaction log backups and an email from an agent asking if she wants to build a business. Now, had Berry signed up for that free webinar, she'd have learned that Power BI is the latest and greatest data analytics tool from Microsoft. She might have put 2 and 2 together and come up with the answer to her FPL woes. She's had 8 seasons of rubbish, and after all, FPL is just a game of data analytics. So, what is Power BI? Well, this is a quote from the Microsoft documentation describing Power BI. Right, Power BI is a collection of software services, apps and connectors that combine to turn your unrelated data sources into this coherent, visually immersive, providing interactive insights report. Right, your data might be in an Excel spreadsheet or a collection of cloud-based or on-premises based SQL Server databases or data warehouses. Whatever it is, Power BI will let you easily connect your data sources and then visualize and discover what's important and share that with anyone and everyone that you want. Now, I know what you're saying. How can this help Berry and her FPL team? Well, the Power BI component parts get broken down to sort of 3 distinct pieces of technology, all of which can help you analyze your analyze data, including the Fantasy Premier League data set. All right. So Power BI Desktop, it's a desktop application. It's free to download. It's the report authoring tool for Power BI, and it can be your friend. Right. We also have the Power BI service, which is a web-based service. It's a software as a service cloud offering that will let you deploy your reports and deploy your visualizations, and then collaborate with colleagues, making them better. Right. And then we've got the mobile app, the Power BI mobile application that you can use for consuming your reports and your data on your mobile devices. Now, there are some other bits as well. There's things like Power BI Report Builder and Power BI Server for on-premises implementations. We'll just leave those there. For now, right? But Power BI Desktop, it is free, right? It can help Barry with their fantasy football endeavours by using sort of data analysis to help her pick a team. Now, this is not just true for FPL. This can be true for lots of business decisions that are being made, right? If you're striving to build a data-driven culture in your organisation, then Power BI can be an excellent tool in your armoury to help you achieve that. Now, Barry will ultimately end up using Power BI to build a killer fantasy football team. You can do the same too if it helps you with your FPL journey, but you can use that insight you get from that data to build this awesome fantasy football Premier League team, or for making just general business decisions. So, what can you do with Power BI and the FPL, the Fantasy Premier League data set? Now, with Power BI Desktop, we can connect to hundreds of different sources, whether it's a database, Excel spreadsheet, SharePoint, hundreds of others, right? You can connect to the FPL API to pull in their data set. From there, you can clean and shape your data using Power Query, so you can model the FPL data to get in a shape that's useful for you. And you can build that model to replicate what you're measuring. Now, ultimately, with FPL, you're looking for goals, assists, clean sheets, and bonus points. So we can set up our model so we can analyze who's doing well at those. Then we can use sort of data analysis expressions, or DAX as it's commonly known, to enhance that model. We might want to add some measures in and do some consolidation. So we might want to look at, say, average points per position, so we know how we can set up our team and shape our formation. And then we can build visualizations on our data. We can tell that compelling story that will allow us to make data-backed decisions around our team. There's also some really cool sort of inbuilt, let's call it AI or machine learning analytics features that will give us further insight into our data. Now, last year, I got a laugh at this, right? It told me Everton was rubbish. Right? Granted, I didn't need machine learning to tell me that, but at least you know it works. Okay, so for the purposes of individual fantasy team selections, it might be that the Power BI desktop tool is more than adequate to achieve your goals. Now, obviously, you can use the full suite of services if you want to, right? But if you think this might help you make a better fantasy Premier League decision and help with your team, we're delivering a few talks in the next few months in Data Scotland, and we're actually got off to Orlando to deliver this talk around building a killer fantasy Premier League team using Power BI. But check out our post here, check out our videos in YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and we've also got some really good content coming in the coming weeks around using Power BI to select your fantasy Premier League team. That's it for now. I'll be back with another video very shortly.